That was only half the story. The story continues after that. Greetings! We've got a really good epiphany for today's daily epiphany, and I can't wait to get into it. And it's expanding pretty much on what I was saying last time. And basically it's how often when you study as many wealthy entrepreneurs, the gurus, the coaches and mentors, and we study their teachings, their strategies, and a lot of them are often saying that we need to kind of crush negativity, we need to destroy our ego, we need to silence the mind's habitual thought patterns, we need to reprogram our thinking, we need to switch off negative feelings, and we need to kind of like awaken the its relative opposite. And it's I think there's it's just a little bit of a fundamental flaw in that thinking, and there's doesn't really lead to it leads to just judgment, and it leads to self-judgment, and then putting ourselves into resistance, and that's not the healthiest way of expressing, especially now we're living in a relative realm where there is polar opposites and there is fundamental flawed premise, and we need to see it in a healthier way. So it's not just about taking a bunch of feelings that we judge as being wrong and saying we need to suppress them, we need to repress them, and we need to oppress them. That is not going to help. That's negative thinking and resistant thinking in itself. Here's the deeper truth. We need to ease off our judgment, which judges everything and puts it in and polarizes everything as to right and wrong, good or bad, healthy, unhealthy. Okay, and we need to move into a place of more acceptance, because we need to understand that the deeper truth is that everything that is occurring is a feedback mechanism. Okay, it's there for a reason. It's not there to be suppressed, oppressed, and compressed, and to be stuck down. It's there in order to bring us back into balance. That's why we're in a relative realm. Everything around us is in a balance. Everything is in a state of dynamic equilibrium, and when one polarization lifts too much, then it basically the other one flows in, and everything's in a constant state of balance. That philosophy isn't balanced, and I think it's a trap that we all fall into a hell of a lot. So basically a premise is that basically judgment polarizes, but acceptance transcends. Now if we look at balance, the universe is in that natural state of equilibrium. Now if we look at it, there is a control, there is a intelligent force. If you just look at Mother Nature, how it orders itself if you leave it alone. If we look at how the planets all revolve on an elliptical, and they're not just all buzzing around in random, knocking into each other. There is a shape, a form, a rhyme and a reason that keeps everything in this kind of flow and balance. And we also need to get to the deeper truth of polarization. There's no separation in polarization. They're opposite sides of the same coin. To give you an example would be to looking at light and dark. They cannot exist without each other. They have to exist with each other. Next time you see a shadow, perceiving that as darkness, go look at where the border of the shadow is. It is completely surrounded by light. They cannot exist without each other. So that balance is, you cannot suppress the one and think that the other is going to flourish. There's good in every bad and bad in every good. They are designed to be together as a feedback mechanism and to allow us to align into balance. And that is the connection of our polar opposites, which actually when you see them together, then you get that state of transcendence when you see they are related, related. There is a bond. A great example of this, it's a very cool story, but the story is never finished. And I think is it the Native American story where they say the tale of two wolves. And inside of each and every person there's two wolves. You've got the one that is light and the one that is dark. And the one that is light is basically feeds off of love, peace, generosity, and all the stuff that we say as good qualities. And then the one that is dark, what does that feed off? Feeds off hate, anger, and jealousy, and what we all deem as negativity. Right, so then the person says, so then if these two wolves are at constant war with each other, which wolf wins? And they say the story is whichever wolf you feed. Now that's all great, but that's now then brings us back to having to try and suppress and oppress dark and trying to put the light up on the pedestal. That was only half the story. The story continues after that. Yes, you feed the light wolf, okay, and you nurture the love, the peace, and the generosity, but you don't overfeed it. Because if you overfeed it, you're now making yourself susceptible to addictions and to attachments. Now, by the same token, you also feed the dark wolf as well. Because even though the dark wolf, if you don't feed it and you try and starve it, we still naturally have these tendencies inside of us. So what's a starving wolf going to do? It's going to aggressively seek a meal. So if we feed that wolf, then basically if it is satisfied, then suddenly all that hate and that rage and that anger that we see in road rage, because we're trying to suppress it all the time, and then suddenly something happens and we snap because it's all built up. Emotions cannot be suppressed. They are the language of the soul. They are there to be expressed, but in a healthier, more channeled way. So suddenly you feed that dark wolf, then all those negatively perceived qualities, those hate, anger, and jealousy, then can be, because that hunger is satiated, they then will then express themselves as in healthy ways, which is where we get our tenacity from, where we can persevere, where we don't give up, where we show grit. So this basically comes down to that belief in the principle of there's good in every bad and there's bad in every good. That's why they have the yin yang symbol, where they're opposites. You have the black and the white, the dark and the shade, and there's a dot in the one and a dot in the other. The good in every bad, bad in every good. So it's just a question of balancing everything else out, seeing the balance, seeing the order, seeing it as, where's the feedback, what is this telling me about me, how can I balance this out in a way that is reflective of a healthier state, of a healthier mindset, of a healthier reflection, and a deeper truth. So basically the conclusion here is, the premise to take home is that instead of judging everything as polar opposites, it's seeing them as feedback mechanisms to create a balance. So getting back to say, judgment polarizes and acceptance transcends. So we've got to look at things now with gentle observation, with less judgment, because judgment then puts it into separation. And through that acceptance, we then start to see deeper truths. So the deeper truths being is that suppression, repression, and oppression of expression leads to depression. It's lovely, I'll say that again. So any suppression, repression, or oppression of our expression leads to depression. And that's not the healthy place to be. So instead, we need to seek deeper truths of how everything is in harmony to balance everything else out. And that our natural state is not one of elation or depression, but basically coming down to contentment, satisfaction, and ease and peace. On that note, peace out.
The Big Cigar.